There, my name is Valerie, and today I want to do a 2024 update to my 2022 presentation of the decline of political America and the rise of the political kingdom of God. This is the Ezra Eagle prophecy that is written in 2nd Esdras chapters 11 and 12 in the Apocrypha. So the reason for the update, it has been 2 years, but more importantly, 2024 marks a critical milestone. This year marks the beginning of the end for the United States. I'll go over how we were warned and where we can find those warnings in the scriptures. And it's going to be the domino effect that this year unleashes is going to be far worse than you thought, but it's also going to be far better than you thought. A lot of end time prophecies are going to be unleashed in a torrent. I mean, this is going to be a fast moving stream. And then I'll also just kind of share some things that are going to happen in the US specifically to watch for. All right, you probably remember this slide. This is the contrary eagle, eagle number 2. What you're looking at is this eagle has 3 heads, just like the eagle 1 did, representing the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. So the eagle was born with these 3 heads. They don't come later. It was born this way. And that's why I think that it's the executive, legislative, and judicial. Then there are 6 wings on the eagle, representing presidents, and then the body of the eagle represents we the people. So in the prophecy, Trump finished his presidency in 2021 in spite of, quote, great strivings that put the kingdom in, quote, peril of failing. In case you want to know how the Lord feels about Trump's presidency, there's a clue right there. Then we move to Biden. We're told that Biden's going to leave office early. He's, quote unquote, sooner away than Trump. So he's not going to make it all the way through his 4 years. This marks when he leaves office, either through death, murder, he decides not to run for president, whatever the case may be, this is a moment of alarm that triggers a series of dominoes where there's no turning back. Things are just kind of downhill from here. That's the moment of no return. So on wing number 3, I think it's going to be Harris finishing Biden's term. Does she continue beyond that? I don't think so. We're told in the prophecy that she's going to be eaten up by the 3 heads. In other words, not elected for a presidential term. So I think she'll be fast. And then we're told in wing number 4 that he reigns, but perishes middle time approaching. He's also going to be eaten up by the 3 heads of the eagle. So there you have it. Now let's move. You see a little tear right there in gray. And that tear is where I think our country starts to fall apart. So you've seen the wings number 5 and 6. They've been sitting underneath the executive branch on the right-hand side, and they've been wanting to reign for a while now. They haven't found a legitimate way to do it. So now they're going to fly over the head of the eagle. In other words, they're not going to reign in the usual way or get to power in the usual way. They're going to usurp power. And we've already had a coup attempt. The last one was not successful. This one is going to be successful. He is going to set himself up to reign. The faction that he has is going to support him. We're told that this king's kingdom is going to be small and full of uproar. And we're told that Congress is going to die as soon as this king takes power. And I think that there are Congress members who leave Congress to follow him. And as a result, Congress dies. But we'll see. We're told that this middle head is going to die in its bed with pain. All right, number 6. After king number 1, there's going to be a king number 2. He's going to kill the last remaining branch, which is the judicial branch. And then eventually he's going to appear no more, and the whole body of the eagle, in other words, us, we're going to be burned. This slide is a reference slide. In the event that you want to know how did I come to the conclusions I made on the previous slide, this slide contains all of the references, so feel free to investigate each of these references for yourself. This slide is an orientation slide. I just want to show you where Covenant Israel is today. So as you look at this map of the world, you'll see on the left that there are a lot of data points in North and South America. Those data points represent the countries with the most Latter-day Saints. So I did all the math and I added up all of those numbers, and it appears that we've got about 82% of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints living in North and South America. So it's important to have that number in mind when we get to the slides on the upcoming pages. All right, moving on to the next point. We were warned. If the writers of Alma, Helaman, and 3rd Nephi were alive today, something that they might tell us is, we told you so. And they would say that because in Alma in particular, all 60 plus chapters of Alma are all about the dangers and consequences of divided government. I think that they were doing some American political foreshadowing. As you read through Alma this year, look for the themes of power. People who are seeking power, and they're not seeking power for righteous reasons. They're followers of Satan, and they're seeking power so that they can rule over other people and live life their way, which basically is bringing other people into subjection to them. It's a form of slavery. They want other people to do their will. They stir people up to anger. It's one of their tools of division and also war. So let's take a look at populist Amlici in Alma 2-3. He lost the vote and was rejected by the voice of the people. A sore loser, he stirred his followers up to anger. They gathered themselves together and consecrated Amlici as their king. Now, we definitely have a type and shadow of that happening today. If you just think back to the January 6th, 2021 coup, they started a civil war that included external enemies, the Lamanites. So not only did they start a civil war, but they also colluded with enemies of the state to, again, try to force their will. Amalickiah is another great example in Alma 46-47, where these lower judges sought for power. Amalickiah became king of the Lamanites because he couldn't become king among the Nephites, and then led a war to enslave the Nephites. In Alma 51-52, we see the kingmen versus the freemen. These kingmen were followers of Amalickiah. They sought to alter the law to overthrow the free government and establish a king so they could do things their way. They refused to defend their country against the impending Lamanite attack until Moroni intervened and said, "You will defend your country or we will put you to death." And then we see a rising in Helaman and 3rd Nephi, Gadianton. These secret combinations protected each other's wickedness in exchange for power. Now, if you don't think that we have secret combinations among us today, let me just ask you this one question. Who won the 2020 election in the United States? If you don't know the answer to that question, because both parties, the Republican Party as well as the Democratic Party, they're both saying we won. Well, one of those parties is lying, okay? Both things can't be true. One is lying. And they're protecting each other in their wickedness in exchange for power. Now, in Helaman and 3rd Nephi, we read about how these Gadianton robbers were responsible for murder, civil war, enemy war, death, theft, loss of lands, overthrow of the Nephites. And the themes, again, all in Alma is, again, the consequences of divided government, which lead to war. And all wars lead to loss of national sovereignty, freedom, homes, lands, health, loved ones, work, income, wealth. It brings in famine and death, foreign invaders, turns lots of people, millions of people into refugees. It makes some people prisoners of war. It brings terror upon people and nations. The suffering is just absolutely horrid. Let's talk now about the domino effect. The things that are coming our way, they're going to be worse than you think, but they're also going to be better than you think. All right, so here I want to connect a couple of dots for you. First, I'm going to read from 2nd Esdras chapter 12, 11 to 12. We learn in 2nd Esdras 12 that the eagle, whom thou sawest come up from the sea, is the kingdom which was seen in the vision of thy brother Daniel, but it was not expounded unto him. Therefore now I declare it unto thee. So our eagle, America, is Daniel's fourth beast. Now, you notice in the Ezra Eagle prophecy that our eagle has 3 heads, and Daniel's fourth beast has 10 horns. Okay, moving on to the second point. Let's see, America's 3 heads, the legislative, judicial, executive branch, represent 3 out of the 10 horns on Daniel's 7th beast. Now, there's also another beast in the Bible that has 10 horns, and that's John's beast in Revelation. So you can see now how we're bringing in the book of Revelation, and all the anticipated things that happen in the Revelation will be coming our way. So next up in Daniel 7, we identified who the beast is, and we identified at least 3 of the 10 horns, America's legislative, judicial, and executive branches. But if you keep reading Daniel's story, the three heads, or the three out of the 10 horns on Daniel's beast, are going to be replaced by what he calls a little horn. And this little horn is going to pluck up 3 horns by the roots. Well, what 3 horns is he going to pluck up? Well, he's going to pluck up America's 3 horns. So long, suckers. And bye-bye, the 3 heads of our eagle. So just wanted to make that connection. And after he plucks out, those 3 horns, now there will be 8 horns on the beast instead of the previous 10. So the implications of all of this is that we live in the era of the rise of the little horn, the beast, the false prophet, and the great whore. We will live to see some, if not all, of the book of Revelation come to pass. And in regards to a few end times things that I just want to give you a heads up about, the saints will be subject to the little horn for 3.5 years. So yes, we will be subject to his economic control, his variety of worship, but his reign will end at Adam-on-Diamon. In Daniel 7 we read, and he, the little horn, shall subdue 3 kings, and he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change the times and the laws, and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. So 3.5 years. Over to Revelation chapter 13, and there was given unto him the little horn, a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So if you haven't watched my other presentations, I'm pretty certain that Donald Trump is going to be that horn. He fits the profile. But the good news is Adam-on-Diamon is coming, marking the beginning of the kingdom of God on earth. Again, in Daniel 7, verse 9 and 22, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days, or Adam, did sit, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. All right, other end time events that are going to rush in, and you can see why it's so important that there are a lot of Latter-day Saints in North and South America, because we're going to need as many people who survive as possible to help build Zion and teach the gospel to the non-Gentiles. So let's just read through this list. So at this point, the times of the Gentiles are going to be fulfilled and judgments are going to start. So the Gentiles have had their opportunity to accept Christ's restored gospel with prophets, apostles, temples, sealing powers, the priesthood power on the earth today, but it's mostly been rejected. This is going to initiate in the beginning of sorrows found in Matthew 24. We're going to see a lot of destruction of the wicked. The Gentile nations will be first to go, with the wicked killing the wicked. We'll see marauding, thieving, murderous neighbors that spare none. America will become a carcass, but it becomes dead with a purpose. It's going to serve as the prince of refuge for the eagles, or covenant Israel, or the righteous, or people who don't want to kill each other. When they flee to safety, they're going to come to us. When war and destruction sweep the globe, we'll see the fall of the kingdom of the devil. The Lord is going to make a full end of all nations. And when America falls this year, America is the world's global superpower. We're number one. So when we fall, absolutely it's going to have a domino effect around the world. Absolutely. So we'll start to see a full end of all nations. But we'll also see the establishment of the kingdom of God with Christ in our midst. The gospel teaching will switch from the Gentiles to the Lamanites, the Jews, and the lost 10 tribes of the north. So we're going to need a lot of Latter-day Saints to help do this gospel teaching. We'll see gathering of the righteous from the four corners of the earth. We'll need the saints to help save the Constitution for Zion and for the freedom of all people on the earth. Now you know that the next prophet coming up is going to be Dallin H. Oaks. He is perfectly positioned to help us to do this and has a good background to be able to help us do this. We'll see the gathering of Israel's natural branches to covenant lands, the Lamanites, Jews, and lost 10 tribes. We'll see the return of the lost 10 tribes from the north. A great earthquake will precede their coming. They will inhabit desolate American cities. We'll see the 144,000 high priests from all the tribes of Israel set apart to teach and gather the remaining righteous off of the earth and bring them to Zion. We're going to need a lot of help building Zion, the New Jerusalem, in Independence, Missouri. In Zion cities, we'll implement new laws of consecration, united order, and the celestial kingdom. We'll see a cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night for Zion travelers and residents. Eventually, the lost 10 tribes will relocate from America to Israel. We'll see the building of the temple in Jerusalem, Israel, the battle of Gog, the abomination of desolation. We'll see the voices, trumps, and plagues in the book of Revelation come to pass. We'll see the Jews accepting the gospel when Christ reveals himself to them at Armageddon. We'll see Armageddon, and then eventually Christ will come in his glory. Now, there are also some things that will happen specifically to the U.S. Other nations will say to themselves, let's divide up the U.S., and the country will go to war to save it from being divided. So now you can see, I'm sure you've asked yourself the question, why are there so many war stories in the Book of Mormon? It's because war is going to land on our shores. The U.S. will be broken up. People will fight state against state, city against city, neighborhood against neighborhood. It will be a civil war. There will be mobocracy. Cities will be cut off. That's in 3rd Nephi. The nation will overthrow itself. There'll be desolation and destruction, no safety, no employment. The wealth will fade away. We will experience famine. Again, in 3rd Nephi, you read about how our chariots will be cut off. In other words, our transportation. We won't be able to use our cars. There will be plague. In the Doctrine and Covenants, it talks about a desolating scourge that's going to wipe out so many people. We're going to hear people fleeing to Utah for safety in the mountains. We'll gather to places of refuge. The political kingdom of God will be established in refugee cities in the U.S. and eventually worldwide. Eventually, the U.S. will be cut off and visited with quote-unquote vengeance and fury. That's also in 3rd Nephi, that exact phrase, vengeance and fury. And that vengeance and fury is going to come from the remnant of Jacob, who's going to tread us down and tear us in pieces, at least in part. There may be other players, but we know at least those guys are going to do that. Worldwide, saints will come to Zion. Again, we'll save the Constitution. And I already talked about the 10 tribes. So that is my update on the Ezra Eagle's prophecy. Thank you so much for your time.